Hey everybody, it's the Black Powder Beginner. Welcome to another episode of Percussion Discussions. Well, YouTube, I got a problem. Yes, I have a lot of munitions. And since I don't have any butternut rebels or rampaging redmen or out of control outlaws to deal with, I'm going to have to do something about it. And it just so happens that I got a couple guys, a father and son team, to come and help me out. And guess what father and son team I got? The Pops Colt Walker, and the son, the third model, the youngest son, the third model Dragoon. And we're gonna see how they do. But before we do, let's introduce our guest. The Pops has not been on camera before, the son has. But let me just do a little bit of introduction. And Samuel Colt. So Samuel Colt had made the Patterson revolver, which was a 36 caliber revolver, and he was basically out of business until Samuel Walker, who was a Texas Ranger, got in contact with Colt, and because Walker had got his hands on a Patterson and used it in um, fighting Indians in the open territory, he liked the revolver, the Patterson, and but he wanted to make something bigger. He wanted a bigger caliber, a larger revolver to use against the Native Americans in the open plains. So he collaborated with Colt, and they came up with the Walker. And this is a fairly large revolver. It is designated basically as a horse pistol, which means that it's carried in a holster, but the holster is strapped to the saddle, and you're riding and attempting to shoot this very large weapon. The funny thing is that Samuel Walker, when he helped Samuel Colt design this revolver, he never actually saw it put to use. He actually died. He actually died on duty um, before Colt had issued the revolvers to the Texas Rangers. But the Texas Rangers took possession and they used them for a little bit. But the only problem is that once again it's a very very large revolver, and they needed something a little bit smaller, more manageable. Had the same power, but just in a smaller package. Well, that led to the Whitneyville Dragoon, which is the first model Dragoon, the eldest son of the Walker here, so to speak. And it's called the Whitneyville Dragoon because Samuel Colt had gotten rid of his production equipment for making revolvers. He figured that this one would be the last one, I guess. And so he had to strike a deal with Eli Whitney Jr., which Eli Whitney was the son of Eli Whitney Sr., who had a patent for the cotton gin. But anyway, that's another part of history. Um, so Samuel Colt struck a deal with Eli Whitney Jr. and or Sr. or both, and he produced the first model Dragoon from the Whitneyville factory. Well, that first model, which was similar to this, the Walker, but only with a shorter barrel and a different loading lever. That one did fairly okay. Colt wanted to refine the process, so he made a second model, and that's the middle son, which nobody really talks about. That's why it's called the middle son. But then you have the youngest son, the wildest son, and that is the last of the Walker slash Dragoon series. And if I can get this bad boy out of here, there we go. And that is the third model Dragoon, which I have right here. And as you can see, father and son definitely favor each other. But there's some subtle changes. And this one is the target model. So it has this raised where you can actually put a raised sight on here. But it is it is lighter, not much lighter, but it is lighter. It has a different loading lever, just like the second model, different from old dear old dad. And as you can see, the square part of the barrel is quite a bit shorter than the Walker. The trigger guard, and this is how you can tell from models. The first model Dragoon, the Whitneyville Dragoon, has the square back trigger guard. Second and third model Dragoons, it's more rounded. You see that there. So, uh, there you go. Father and son are going to help me out today. And I'll see you at the range. Jeez. Hey everybody. Uh so I was having problems here with the caps. Not so much cap jams, but more the percussion caps that I have are Remington number 10s, but some of them weren't the best. Like the 10 had gotten wet or just overall humidity because it's very humid here in Southeast Texas. And I try to keep them in a cool, dry place, but I had a couple issues with the caps. The green primer on the inside was sticking to the nipples. It was just not a good look. So I switched out some. Still had the issues. Had to take those off the nipples, switch out some more, put some more on. At one point, I thought that the barrel was kind of coming away from the cylinder a little bit because of the force of the firing, but that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case at all. It was actually the the percussion caps weren't the best. And then coming up here, you'll see that once again another percussion cap doesn't work. But I've also was having issues with. Well, I only had about 6 duds out of 40 round, 50 rounds, 60 rounds, and that was one of the duds, paper cartridge duds. But so we ended the day pretty quick with the Walker, and we moved on, and I moved on to the Dragoon. So enjoy the rest of it.